Damn you, Ryan Murphy. I am willing to make the tonal shift with you that we're handling a serious topic, and then you have the audacity
to dress these two women like this. Kim in the leather beret, and then Glenn Close dressed like President Snow in the Hunger Games. Welcome back, everybody, and just like Yap, I'm Caroline.
I'm Andi.
We are back with another edition of All's Fair, and this week was massive tonal shift.
Huge.
Which we'll get into in a second. And I think before we get into that, I need to get into our Kardashian roundup. And the first is that, as we've talked about, Kim has been going after the bar, and she posted that she did not pass, but then also has posted this video on her Instagram since then as well. I think that of a psychic telling her on the phone that she wasn't going to pass.
That she wasn't going to pass?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It seems like based off of her Instagram story, she's gonna take it again. I'm curious to see how she does.
I mean, the bar exam is very, very difficult, and a lot of very smart people don't pass it on the first time, and a lot of weirdly very stupid people do pass it on the first time.
The other big news of the week was that Kris had her 70th birthday party. That was 007 themed at Jeff Bezos' house, and every billionaire you can think of was there, except for my girl Taylor, because as we know famously, there's beef. As you can see, looking at them side by side is crazy because it's very clear with Kris's recent facelift. You can tell which daughter she modeled her face off of.
Correct.
Now I have a game. We can all come up with our All's Fair lawyers' names. My version of the game is middle name plus the street you grew up on.
Oh, okay. That's easy. It would be Michelle Dana.
That is a very All's Fair lawyer name. Michelle Dana.
Michelle Dana Esquire.
Michelle Dana Esquire, and then I would be Brooks Ridenhour Esquire.
That's really, really good. Yours is better than mine.
But Michelle Dana is very Dina Standish.
It is.
So if you'd like to let us know what your All's Fair lawyer names are in the comments,
yes,
we'd love to hear them. That takes us into episode 4, Everybody Dance Now. You can tell it is Emerald Green putting that record down. She's got the candles lit. She's ready to have a night in. And her sons, there's part of me is like, I just want them to have their own show.
I know.
Their dynamic between the 4 of them is so delightful. The boys ruin her night for one. She says, I thought you left for Coachella an hour ago, and I screamed at the next 2 lines. Like, well, Kendrick Lamar and Lil Baby don't go until midnight. I was like, oh my God. I just was like, midnight? I love Kendrick Lamar, but
I know.
Midnight?
We're too old.
We're too old. Also, I think about that too. I was like, aren't there like noise ordinances at Coachella with how late?
I have no idea.
Not.
I have never been to a Coachella. I will probably never end up going to Coachella.
And we're okay. But I screamed at them saying we're not sitting through Mumford & Sons.
I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to either.
College me would. I mean, Little Lion Man.
Sure.
Early Mumford. I mean,
their music has always, there's something about it. It like sits right on my irritation nerve.
Which is valid. I mean, that whole genre, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
And they start asking her a million questions about, like, who she's having dinner with. She's like, okay, Mr. FBI, CIA, and NSA, why are you up in my business? And she reminds him, like, you're going to college soon. I just love how emotionally intelligent they've written these boys.
I know.
And I think it's because they've been raised with a single mother. And tells her, you really look beautiful tonight. I just was so, like, moved by this entire scene and, like, the interactions between her and the boys. I just love, they really love their mom. And we go back to Nobu headquarters in the library. And I've realized, I was like, okay, this is scratching an itch, though, because it's giving us the lunch scenes on Sex and the City we missed on And Just Like That.
That's fair. That's true.
I was like, if this is how we're starting every episode, I'm not mad. I kind of like the girls are getting together with their insane lunch, talking about the topic that's going to be like our theme, obviously, for the week and for the episode. Emerald is recounting to them. The boys went out and it was just me and Buzz, which is one of the many that we met in her drawer a couple episodes ago. She was in that house screaming, thank you, Jesus, so loud. I was like, good for her. And Liberty she was like, yeah, but does he care about you? And Laura and Liberty, like, get really into, like, you know, maybe you need to start dating. And she was like, you know, I know you don't like being alone. Like, otherwise you wouldn't become a mother. And she reminds her, yeah, but I chose artificial insemination. Like, I made this conscious decision for myself. The rest of them start talking about dating and the politics behind it of being a successful woman and having to either downplay it so they don't feel insecure, or it's like it's not enough, like the back and forth of that. But Liberty tries to throw Emerald a bone. She's like, but the last frog was a prince, and we see her engagement ring from Reggie. Something tells me, foreshadowing my like wild prediction, is that she's gonna leave Reggie at the altar.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna work out. We're not done with that. There's no way we could have just like closed that up neatly in one episode.
I'm curious how like the story structure is gonna go, because we left with like such an insane cliffhanger from episode 3, and we've not acknowledged at all the fact that Kim Allura has gotten 2 embryos implanted.
No,
illegally.
We've moved on. We've moved on.
We've moved on to get Emerald a date on Prestige Partners, because power couples aren't born, they're matched. Emerald's like, I will throw up on this table, because she's like a normal person's reaction to being on the apps. And then she talks about, I'd rather like go in person, because at least you see what you're getting into, which I think is valid. When you have the phone, it's so just like impersonal, but if you feel the like vibe and chemistry in person, that's like, there's nothing more. I mean, I think about in college going to a house party.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And when you would like vibe in person with someone and
it's
message them on
magical.
Facebook later.
Ladies, find your men the old-fashioned way by having them audition for a music improv team that you're coaching.
Emerald brings up this Elise over at Adams Pool and Spence, I guess the one other law firm in this town, where she also moonlights as a matchmaker hosting a weekend party for, like, singles. And this piques Allura's interest immediately. She's like, I'll have just enough time to get you ready by then. So we cut to the two of them. I looked up, I was like, I think this is in WeHo. We find out they're in, like, again, the craziest outfits anyone could wear shopping. Emerald looks like she's wearing Cruella DeVille's daytime wear. So we're gonna find out what kind of milkshake brings the boys to the yard, and we find out Emerald's like, I know how to dress when I'm on assignment, which I would love more of a montage of Emerald undercover. Emerald is dressed up. She got the other dress on the rack, and she looks incredible.
Amazing. I've never seen anyone's boobs look this insane. In my life.
Lifted this high. The dress reminds me very much of like the Jessica McClintock era of like our proms in 2006, 2007.
I thought you were gonna say Jessica Rabbit.
Oh, but that too. She looks like Jessica Rabbit, but the like way the sparkles are like every prom dress from 2005, 2006.
I cried in the Jessica McClintock dressing room more times than I've cried anywhere else in my life. Very familiar with having emotional distress at a Jessica McClintock.
Jessica McClintock, we're looking for sponsors.
I think you went bankrupt several years ago, but please sponsor us.
And she yells at the boys, telling them, I'm not doing the mom thing tonight. And she comes out, and the boys see, they're like, oh, she looks bangable. Which is just like, this whole interaction was so funny. Tells them, she's like, don't say that shit to your mom. Like, that's crazy. I just love, like, she's so ready to cut these boys down a peg at any moment. It's really lovely.
Like, she loves them more than anything, but I think part of her parenting, of, like, parenting good men, is to, like, put them in their place regularly.
And we find out the boys are going camping at Angela's Crest, which, like, I have a question about this in a minute, because the timeline of this episode in particular, I could not, like, place a finger on how long this episode is. They're, like, sweet and overprotective. They say, Mom, text us if you need a background check. And she tells them, like, okay, don't have to worry about me. I taught you that. And we have this cute little moment of them going with her to the car, and they're like, Mama's about to get it on. She's like, stop, like, and she enjoys it. And she's like, stop it, okay? And, like, get back in the house, you pack of hyenas. And I just... I don't know. I could, like, live in their dynamic.
I know. It is a good dynamic. I will say, like, there is something weird about, like, how comfortable they are with, like, the idea of their mom having sex. But, like, also, I guess that's enlightened. I'm just, like, I don't know. I'm very lucky to have parents that, like, still love each other. But every time they, like, kiss, I'm like, ugh!
I think being raised now is very different, because we grew up in a time where it was, like, forbidden language to say boobs.
Yes,
and
correct.
vagina
You
and
had to type it. You had to type it on your TI-83 calculator.
8088S or 5.
Yeah. 80085.
Yeah.
Or boobies if you want to get crazy.
Whoa! If you want to really get into it. It feels like we're in Miami. I don't know. This party, there's a lot of, like, establishing shots at this party. And we meet Elise, who hosts the party, which I was like, is she a like, what is this? Is this a networking event? Like, how does she get these people there? And she's like, it's okay. Like, don't be freaked out. It's, like, like-minded, sophisticated people who are, like, over the apps. Like, it's going to be very chill. You're going to have a good good time. And in the middle of this, she catches this man's eye, and Elise is like, okay, I catch a vibe. I'm going to leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I caught you looking at me. And she's like, well, it's only because you were looking at me. And he's like, I guess you're just the best thing here I've seen to look at, which I was like, okay, fine. That's a line.
Yeah. It was interesting in this interaction to see Emerald be so, like, rattled because in every other context, we've seen her, like, really put together. She kind of always knows what to say, always knows what to, like, quip back. And this really, like, threw her off her footing. So it's like, she's very adamant about not wanting to date, I think, it's clear partially because, like, she's out of her element in a way that, like, we're not used to seeing from her. In the moment, I just had, like, a weird little spidey sense. After we see everything that's about to transpire, I was like, I had a spidey sense moment in this moment, and I don't think it was necessarily because of anything other than being a woman. Totally. Where you're like, I'm at a party, someone else should not be getting my drink for me, or if they are, I am following them and I am watching what's going. Like, I'm just so sensitive about that when I watch any TV show where I'm like, don't let a man, don't get you your drink. Don't do that.
Lived experience. Like, I think I was kind of shocked also she didn't take, like, Allura or Liberty with her.
Yeah, I was too, actually,
Yeah, so I think that also was, like, a little bit too where it's like, oh, she's way more vulnerable because she's gone completely by herself, which also feels out of character. Mm-hmm. And I just also included, I was like, Amaretto Sour. That is a drink I haven't heard anyone order since college. I just thought that was like a wild drink. It was
an interesting choice for sure.
Yeah, really caught me off guard. Then we get the like wildest needle drop that as shifts into Gonna Make You Sweat by CC Music Factory. The name of the episode, Everybody Dance Now. Mm-hmm. At first, it seems like things are okay, and then clearly we get this sort of montage that it's clear that Emerald has been impaired. There was something in her drink. We get like the shots of like things are crazy on the dance floor. And then we cut to Emerald in a bed, still in the dress and wearing the gloves. Flashbacks of like there are ropes on the bed being tied to the bed. There's like her knee is like torn up a bit. And this like devastating shot from afar of just like Emerald on the stairs by herself. Yeah. It just, you go into experiences like this hoping for the best. You don't ever want to think that this is how things could happen. And then it's like you let your guard down once and then this is what happens.
Yeah, this was just devastating to watch, especially after we've already established like she's such a strong character and she looks out for her son so much and she like always has her wits about her. And like this was just... It was devastating. I will say, like, and we texted a little bit about this, it's such a tonal shift from the rest of the show so far. Also a very interesting tonal shift in that the entire All's Fair universe seems to be very much leaning into the fact that, like, the show was panned critically. People think it's, like, overly campy and ridiculous. And so the press and like media and marketing and advertising teams are clearly leaning very heavily. This show is just campy and fun and ridiculous and we should all love it and have a good time. And so it's weird seeing all of that, knowing that they knew that this was about to be presented to us. Not that there's anything wrong with this being presented to us. It was such a wild tonal shift. Like I was sitting there being like, oh, I actually really can't believe that we went there. Yeah. The biggest thing I will say, and I said this to you already, I think the show needs to be viewed as if it is like its own version of Law and Order, because we are handling like much more serious topics. But if you watch an episode of Law and Order or like any very popular crime procedural, those shows are objectively ridiculous. Like the pace at which they solve the crimes, the way they use forensics, the like actual characters and circumstances are like really blown out of proportion. So like you kind of just have to like take the show and be like, this is like its own weird hyper feminine version of Law and Order.
Totally. I think there is something interesting about this in a show being critically panned that's very feminine. I appreciate that they're weirdly bringing up these like female centered topics that maybe not a lot of other shows would give time for this. And we cut to her at the hospital. Finally, they performed a rape kit. And there was no definitive evidence to confirm sexual assault. And she was like, I just don't know what happened to me, which is just the most...
It's awful.
It's awful. It's awful. And I think, like, and not uncommon, as you'll see, like, you know, on SVU or in just real life, that it's like, there you have to, as a victim, unfortunately, in these situations, they expect you to have so much more information for them to actually want to take you seriously. And again... The women on the show, all right, this is our second instance of someone being able to cry out of one eye on All's Fair. And Niecy, I was like, if they don't submit this episode for Niecy for, like, an Emmy consideration next year, which, like, again, I wasn't expecting anything to be Emmy-worthy on this show, but this whole episode was just, like, such an incredible showcase, I think, for Niecy. We see her find the necklace that Allura got her. It's ruined. From the doctor, we find out that that Emerald had GHB and benzos in her system, and if it had been any worse, she could have gone into respiratory failure, and it's, like, absolutely horrifying. And we tell her, like, she's lucky to be alive, and they're trying to get her to remember anything, and she's like, this, like, look on her face, there's like, really
I know.
broke me, and she's like, I just felt fear, like it was gonna be my last moment on Earth.
It was devastating.
And we are back at headquarters. It seems like she went straight to work. Like, I don't know how much time has passed. I was like, okay, I guess she thinks she'll be fine. And she goes in with her new client, one Jennifer Jason Leigh, playing Cheryl Goodfodder. In this instance, Cheryl Goodfodder started her own, like, healthcare tech company. She's worth like $30 billion, and we're finding out, like, it was supposed to be a very easy divorce, but he's claiming he should have the benefits of my success. He's being represented by Carrington Lane. We get this wild flashback of them at Google, Microsoft. We see this, like, montage of them being in love. These two have a conversation in their flashback about, she's like, I'm not really sure I want kids, and he's like, really? How can you not want kids? And she's like, but it seemed innocuous at the time. Now, okay, I am not in the business of making women feel a certain way, but unfortunately, that is a thing. Either, no matter where on the spectrum where you fall, if you say you like kids, like, that is, and want kids, that's not a thing, like, a want that's gonna change.
No. I think people stay together thinking that one significant other is going to change their mind, and you got to get that conversation out of the way, like, sooner rather than later. Yeah. And you really have to be very clear on whether your mind is open to changing.
I think because as, like, this sort of continues in a second, I was like, well, what did you expect in a little bit? Because he was up front, he was like, oh, how can you not want kids? At that point, I would be like, well, this has been fun.
Would not feel meant to be if we were so misaligned on this, like, very critical thing.
Again, I want to support all women, but I just do think she should have run in the opposite direction.
100,000%. He was not cute enough for you to, like, see if you can change his mind.
That's also what I thought in a second. I was like, the sex can't be good enough to, like, gloss over that, but who's to say? And this scene haunted me.
Yeah, this was awful.
It was bad on both ends. Because you can't, one, as a man, force coming inside a woman if she doesn't want it. Because that also is aligned a bit with this plotline with Emerald of, like, this being forced a bit. Honestly, that's more of where I think we could be, like, having this conversation with Cheryl is, like, this was being forced upon me, and I didn't want it.
Yeah, so dark. I hated this.
I hate it. It went on. It felt like it went on for too long. The tone shifts the minute that she forces him off of her.
I would have probably punched him in the face and told him to leave my life forever. Because, like, that's disgusting.
That's when you file. Like, it felt like they're both trying to trap each other. This comment was, like, also insane. I was like, this also tells you what he thinks about women raising children as well. That he's like, she took, like, 6 weeks off, and she's basically in the office. So I was like, oh, okay, so you would be a nightmare person to have a child with.
Yeah, no.
To begin with, because you think women just, like, bounce back. Like, do you even know what's entailed in, like, rearing a child? Jennifer Jason Leigh, much like Jessica Simpson, I was like, I kind of want her to get an Emmy for this performance, because this whole monologue where she's like, you know what, rather than, like, pleasing a man and, like, not gonna give him a kid, I was like, okay, but then she got me back on her side with this. So I was like, yeah, I was like, no notes. I really, like, loved her performance of this. It felt just so great. Earned and lived in, and which is why she's Jennifer Jason Leigh. And they just tell her, like, there's a statute of limitations on him, like, wanting that, and Emerald is like, our job is to make sure it stays there. We're gonna take care of the wolf. We're that for you. And our girl is here. I felt empty. We're like 20, halfway through the episode. There's no Carrington Lane sighting. The girls look at each other like, okay, here we go. The gloves are off. Ready, let's deal with Carrington, round 2. We get the line from the trailer. She walked down the hallway, shaped like a clown cervix. We now know what this is for. And it's funny because she's, like, on their side of the table dynamic-wise. Yeah. Which I thought was, like, very interesting because she wants to show that she has power over them.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can tell she's... Sarah Paulson, okay, here, if I don't see this from a drag queen in a week, like, if a drag queen is not doing a lip sync with, like, lines from Carrington interspliced, I will be very upset.
It would be, like, it's a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, there's, like, a lot of juicy lines to work into lip syncs. She calls her beef I just, like, it continues. She calls her beef curtains.
And she says, Alora, the weight you've gained since Chase broke up with you is barely noticeable. And I was like, haha, we are hinting at possibly those two embryos are still gestating. She tells him, she's like, there is a war to be won. And we find out he's wanting half of everything, again, alluding to what we've talked about. Thank you, California, because of they were together for over 10 years. And he's wanting spousal support of $20 million a year. That's crazy.
And we find out she's, like, starting to get more into it. She's like, if you can call a human life property. And we find out that Cheryl had an abortion that she didn't tell Matt about. And for that reason, she's keeping him from being a father. So this means he's entitled to everything she owns.
I'd be very curious from someone who actually knows about this, like, whether there is any legal leg to stand on here. Because, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Emerald even says, she's like, last time I checked, like, a woman can get an abortion and she doesn't have to fucking tell anybody about it, which is, as far as I understand, true.
She, like, tries to, like, just really, like, needle it in, saying, like, she doesn't want to sacrifice her 24-inch waist to make him happy, and then, like, tries to, like, show, like, that she's got a one-up on them because they're like, oh, well, you know, her board of directors, they're made of Silicon Valley conservators who all attend the Holy Church of Peter Thiel, and it's time for the victimization of men to be recognized. I was like, ugh.
I am so confused about what the deal is with this Carrington character. Like, I know that a lot of, like, her motivation is she just fucking hates these women and wants to, like, make their lives hard at every possible turn. What are her actual, like, moral values and politics, I wonder? Because she's, like, betrays her own sex a lot in this conversation.
And then this obviously hits a nerve with Emerald, and she's like, do you think we asked for this? Because obviously her wounds are very fresh. And Laura's like, come on, don't you have any compassion whatsoever? Obviously, Carrington doesn't know what happened. But then I also screamed at this last line. And she was like, where are we flying to today? At this random person who works at the firm.
I know, because she thinks she's dressed like a flight attendant. She's so mean to absolutely every single employee. Like, we need a shift for this character. We need to put her on the team with the women because, like, it will eventually stop being fun to see her be this mean. Unless it's directed from the right people to the right people.
I do think, if we don't get a Carrington POV episode, I'll be very shocked. And Emerald needs time, and she's like, I gotta catch the motherfucker who drugged me. And Alora's like, well, we're gonna help you find this asshole. So GRG is at it. It's kind of funny. I was like, wow, it feels like they abandoned the case they're working on.
I know.
I'm like, who cares about our clients? We gotta worry about Emerald. I was like, what is the structure of this law firm? Like, what is happening?
And what's the structure of the show? Like, just when I think we found our footing of, like, it's a repeatable format where they have their breakfast or their lunch and they talk about the themes of the episode, and then we have a client who's relevant to the theme.
And so we get into, like, investigation mode. We're getting a list of everyone who RSVP'd, and then we're like, okay, everybody was taking tons of pictures. There's got to be pictures of this man out there. We find one of him online. Liberty is reviewing security footage, but there's nothing. She's like, this guy's like a phantom, nothing but dead ends. And Emerald says, like, the poignant line. She's like, there is something. Because she's an investigator. There's always, like, some place where they're going to slip up. And she's at home and gets this horrifying text from the man.
I could not believe this.
Yeah.
Clearly, like, this is part of the abuse, obviously, is that he wants to, like, make her feel ashamed, scare her. This was terrifying, though. The fact that, like, he had her number. I did also think to myself, though, like, you fucked up, though, because, like, if anybody's going to be able to, like, trace this back, it is going to be Emerald. As we've seen, like, that's why they call her the big dick. Like, she figures it out.
So it's like that. Like, we found out Chase has, like, 5 burners because she got the boys on it.
Yeah. Like, so, like, it's almost like this guy wants to get caught.
I did have the thought, though, looking at the screen, I was like, oh, they didn't pay Apple for the iPhone rights, so that's why the text looked funny.
Ah, good eye. Good eye.
It's one of those things, if you see on TV, if the phone looks weird, they didn't pay Apple. So
good to know. I've definitely had that thought a bunch of times.
Then we get a shot of our girl in another crazy hat walking down the hallway and just clearly going through it. If this weren't an emotional time, I would say this is a very Dudley Do-Right hat.
I know. And Kim K is about to walk in another.
Yes. And Kim in the leather beret, and then Glenn Close dressed like President Snow in the Hunger Games.
Like, would you like some Girl Scout cookies? I was like, God damn you, Ryan Murphy. I am willing to, like, make the tonal shift with you that we're handling, like, a serious topic, and then you have the audacity.
To dress these 2 women like this.
This looks like I'm about to, like, buy some, like, leather-studded tag-alongs. Like, why? Why?
But we find out that picture that she was sent from him. I have software from when I was following Chase where she cleaned up the image, and to the point where she's able to get an address. It's like, good for you, Allura. She was able to pull an address from the photo, and we find out that it was from a person who killed himself 10 years ago to the day, a Mr. Conrad Walton, that Dina had beat him in a lawsuit. He was running a Ponzi scheme, and he never recovered, killed himself 2 years to the day of that. And he has his 43-year-old single son is now living there, which is the man who attacked her. So she's like, this guy went after me to get to you. And this was like the shock. We now find out, so this was like a whole revenge thing. So like, did the man know that Emerald was going to be at this party and plot this all out? Like, I just have so many questions of how that happened.
It brings on a ton of questions. And also now we are no longer like, oh, for this individual episode, Emerald is the woman who's in crisis that we're going to be dealing. It's like, now this is like a broader thing against the whole firm. And like, we already also have Carrington trying to take the firm down.
And obviously, like, for Emerald, then it's now like, oh, wow, now, so like, this happened to me because of you. Like, there's just like another level of like, great, now I can't feel protected in these group of, and also remembering that like, she's basically the one woman of color amongst these women. So for this to happen to her, like, on top of that,
yes,
for her to be targeted in that way also is like especially sensitive. So we see Emerald pull up to this person we haven't met yet. We find out it was her partner. Now, okay, I was like, they're semi-familiar. Did you look up who this was?
I didn't, but this guy did look familiar to me. Who
okay.
Give me the information.
Okay, so this is Cedric Yarborough, and he was also on Reno 911 with Lucy.
Oh my god!
I was like, that's such a fun, like, little Easter egg.
That is fun. And we also, I guess, find out, like, the reason why Emerald is an investigator is because she actually was a cop, a detective.
But she goes to him to find out, like, did you arrest them? And we find out the evidence was inconclusive, which, of course, this is not abnormal.
Nope.
She comes home, and this is when I was shocked. I was like, there's 12 minutes left in the episode, and the Sons don't know about this yet still? Like,
yeah.
How much... She's been to work several days. I was like, I know they only went camping, like, overnight, probably.
Yeah, she does say when she starts to tell them about it that it happened to her, I think she says, like, last weekend. So I think we can assume, like, a week has gone by.
Yeah. And the boys at first, because we see, like, there's a chef there making dinner, and they're like, oh my god, you got a second date. No, it's another one of the self-care days. And she's like, no, I'm having dinner tonight with 3 of my favorite men. So it's like, we're really setting the tone for everything she's about to tell them. I was like, cheese on your Brussels sprouts. I haven't done that, and now I think I need to try.
You should.
And Ezra, our sweet, emotionally intelligent boy, senses something is off and tells them, like, what happened. And she's like, I felt violated, my person, my safety. But the thing that scared her the most was, like, I was worried I wouldn't be your mother anymore. And I was like, oh, my God.
I know. This was heartbreaking. And I appreciated that she had this, that we saw this scene of her, like, having this open conversation with them about it.
I know. Again, it's just, they've done such a good job of building her world. I feel very invested in Emerald and her sons in a way that, like, I'm hoping we get that for Liberty, because I feel like Liberty...
I don't give a fuck about Liberty, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, there really is, like, nothing to her at this point other than the engagement, so I don't care about her. I'm invested in Allura, and I feel, like, invested in Dina, but it's just very interesting. And she, like, tells him, she's like, it's gonna be fine. Like, as always, like, I'm sure she's had to tell him a million times as, like, a single mother, like, justice will be served. You don't need to worry about me. I'm handling it. Then we're back to cunt headquarters. Another shot of my girl getting... Again, I'm loving how they're dressing her this episode.
Yeah.
The gloves are back. And, she's like, just like the women who own this joint, we're withdrawing all the claim to your assets. And I was like, what happened? And like a whiplash. And we find out, in her words, he's gotten his new girlfriend. He suddenly has pregnant, in her words, obese with child, which I was like, Carrington, I just like... The language that they have around bodies with her is so, I guess, like, is aligned with who she is, but it's very problematic.
Yes.
And Cheryl is, like, upset about it, right? Like, we're just, like, in shock a bit. She exits, she's like, so go die or whatever.
Love that as an exit line.
It's, we will be pocketing that for future usage.
100,000%.
For our haters. This, again, another great scene from Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's like, you know what? Actually, like, now I can maybe let go of the guilt I've been carrying around from all of this. He can be happy. I'm not preventing him from his happiness. And she's like, and says to Allura, which this is like gutting her. We weren't put on this earth to have kids. Like, assuming that Allura has made it by choice to not have kids. I was like, she's dying on the inside. And like says like motherhood isn't the only path to a meaningful life. Which I was like, thank you for including that line as
Hell yeah.
as two women who have complicated relationships with like motherhood and like what that means like for our identity in our late 30s. And then we get this insane shot again of her like mirroring Milan. This is the only way women can touch their like uterus.
I know. I mean, like, this is like a TV and movie thing that like drives me crazy, where you're like, is this character pregnant? And then they do this and you're like, I guess so.
I have no idea how far along she is.
Yeah, no clue.
We're back at lunch headquarters. We're having cute small talk about Doug saying his memorabilia needs to end up in the Academy Museum and not on eBay. So I was like, I guess Doug is a director. I'm hoping we find out more about that. And we now get a name to our partner. Ray Delgado has shown up to ladies' lunch, and we find out that he's dead. The guy is dead. The guy who roofied her, which I was like, whoa, that's a huge shift.
A shock.
He was like, the angle and the distance of the gun makes suicide a real possibility, but it's like not clear. They're gonna want to talk to you. So obviously this means, like, obviously she's number one suspect for this because of what happened. And of course it's like...
Which just feels so unfair because, like, she took all of the right steps to, like, be like, I called 911. I went to the doctor. I got lawyers involved. Like, I accumulated evidence that this happened to me. And not only can they not do anything for her to, like, bring justice, now this guy went and got killed. And because she went through all of these hoops to accumulate evidence accusing this man, she looks guilty. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
It's just like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't as a woman. And it was so infuriating. And Dina like tries to step in and she's like, you're thinking she perpetuated a revenge killing? And then we have this incredible scene. Wow, this was like, I don't know, to see these two going at it in like such a like grounded, heavy way, because Dina goes after Emerald as she leaves after she gets this information. She's like, he didn't get the justice he needed, but sometimes there's a way of balancing the scales even if we can't. I was like, again, another case at GRG where I was like, what is the law happening here? Again, people get murdered. Who knows?
It's sort of like in the movie Seven, where you're like, what the hell city does this take place in? Very outside of reality.
It's very outside of reality and just like so shocking. Emerald so rightfully tells her, she's like, you're trying to alleviate your own fucking guilt for this whole situation, and you brought that man into my life and into my children's lives, and you just can see Glenn in the way she's like, this is in acting school when they talk about listening and receiving information. This was that. I was like, wow.
I get where Emerald is coming from, and I know she's really angry, but like, all Dina did was like settle a class action lawsuit against a guy with a Ponzi scheme. She didn't know that this was going to end up happening, obviously.
That his son would be going out for revenge. Like, how is she supposed to know that?
Right.
And she now goes home to the boys. They're playing a video game. She's like, I need you to stop. He's dead. And she's like, where were you? And sweet Ezra, the other two were out hanging out, but he was watching black hole videos on YouTube.
I know. I laughed out loud.
These sweet,
I was like, at least he's
boys.
honest.
Yeah. And then we're left with this, like, devastating last look of her.
I know.
I don't know what this means for her character moving forward. I'm curious to see what this is going to be like the rest of the season. Now I'm like, okay, I really have no idea what to expect for next week because we thought it was going to be goofy fun time, so maybe we'll swing back in the other direction.
I have truly no idea. This was a wild, wild shift. I'm glad that they feel comfortable approaching these topics, and like we've started to spin a lot of different plates. I do hope Carrington ends up on the same team with everybody else. That is my hope for upcoming episodes.
I just want them to take more men down.
Yeah. Ruin more men's lives. That's always going to be good TV.
That's why we're here for. Yeah. But so that's the end of episode 4 of All's Fair, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.